Hello, welcome to Science Forum. Today is April 16. Right now, the time is 12 noon Pacific time. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
So nice to see you. Thank you so much. And Tom is our dear friend. He worked in FBI, sorry, for 30 years. And also he worked as assistant director of FBI for 5 years. And he just will give us some very unique information from his experience and perspective. And thank you so much, Tom, for
Thank you.
coming. Yeah. And then today we have some important issue need to discuss with Tom. The first issue is about the accident happened in Baltimore Bridge, which we talked last week, and Tom shared a lot of information with us. And 2 days ago, we saw that FBI announced they initiate the criminal investigation to the accident. And also, they already went on the Dolly ship, which caused the Baltimore Bridge accident. So it's very interesting development. So I'd like to have Tom to give us some more information about that. And second is about Trump case in New York, start from yesterday, and also about some pro-Palestine protester block the Golden Bridge in San Francisco, Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and also the Chicago International Airport. So it looks like it's a very well organized nationwide activities or events or some bad thing. I don't know how to describe it, but I don't think it's like some people just very excited and then just went outside and blocked the Golden Gate Bridge. No, I don't think that's what happened. So I'd like to discuss with Tom about that. Tom, so where we start?
Well, if you're starting with the bridge in Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned, 2 days ago, the FBI publicly announced that they were conducting a criminal investigation. And they announced that because agents had boarded the ship and
Mm-hmm.
were, what I think, executing search warrants, probably because it said they were doing the investigation pursuant to judicial authority.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, what we don't know, and probably aren't going to know, is they would not have just started that investigation 2 days ago. So this probably has been going on maybe from the beginning of the crash
Uh,
to gather the information that they would need. If nothing else,
mm-hmm.
before they can have search warrants or go to a judicial authority, they would need the full identity of that ship, where it's registered, who owns it, who's
Okay.
commanding it, who are on the crew
Mm-hmm.
that are generally on that ship and where they're from, including the two people from Baltimore, the two local authorities that would be required to be on that ship as it's leaving the harbor. So, so
Okay.
you have all of that background information would need to be gathered first,
Mm-hmm.
and and it would be gathered independent of what President Biden or anybody else is. Now, as you recall, the day after the ship crashes at 1:30 in the morning, brings down the bridge.
Right.
Later that morning, you have a very famous, accomplished, and respected journalist, Laura Logan, put out that she knows from sources that she has in the U.S. intelligence community that that ship and the damage done to the bridge was the result of a cyber attack
Mm-hmm.
conducted. And she doesn't specify specifically on the ship or, some other harbor masters or whatever it might be, but that a cyber attack was conducted. And then what we don't know is did that specifically cause the power to go out on the boat?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the information coming out now, and this is some of what the FBI is going to be looking at, is were they already having troubles with the power on that ship while it was still in the harbor, while it was still in the port? And if
Mm-hmm.
they were having serious problems, why did they try to leave? Why did they? Because they have two tugboats take the ship
Right.
toward the bridge to
Right.
go out to sea on the river, and then they get done, they pull off. Now the ship's on its own, and the power goes out, and
Right.
then the rudder that causes what direction the ship can go in. The rudder is turned in such a way that you see in the video of that ship that it makes basically a right turn right into the bridge. How's that happen?
Right.
Because if the rudder would have gotten stuck with a slight left turn, it would have gone right out in between the supports of the bridge, gone out like it was supposed to. So these are all questions that raise all kinds of issues about who was in control of that ship. Was it under a cyber attack? What specific system in the ship or harbor was attacked? How did they do that? So these are all questions now we're going to see. But as I mentioned, the FBI makes the announcement, and a lot of people reported it 2 days ago, like they just opened an investigation. They just started this. And it would have been probably from day one that they would have started looking at this and trying to see, when did these power problems come on? Who was on that ship? Who was guiding the ship? What's their background? And then, when you conduct an investigation like that, if you have members of the crew that are from other countries, for example, then the FBI would contact its offices in those other countries.
Okay.
And then those offices would go to the local police that they would have a relationship with and request background information on each of the employees. And then that information would be provided to the FBI in that country, then transmitted back to FBI headquarters here in the US, in Washington. And that would, feed into the amount of information that they were getting and what they were learning in that. So it's way early. Then, of course, you have the announcement early that the NTSB is going to come in and look at what happened as far as the ship, the guidance of the ship, and the crashing of the ship and all that. Now, in a lot of these cases, whether it's an airline disaster or whether it's a railroad disaster or a shipping disaster, you have NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board, work closely with the FBI to determine, is it terrorism? Is it an accident? Is it a criminal case of some kind? Insurance fraud, some other reason for this. And you have the NTSB 2 days after the accident say they've recovered the black box, the information, electronic and verbal information of the guidance of that ship. And then later you have that parts of the black box are not in the black, they're not recorded. Well, how's that happen? That's another mystery. That's unusual for that to happen. So there's so many questions to be answered. And one of the questions to me is why the president was in such a big hurry the day of the accident to say nothing to see here. It's not terrorism, it's an accident, and we're going to pay for everything. The U.S. taxpayer is going to pay for the bridge, for the ship, for who knows what. And I just thought that to me, it was very suspicious that the president wouldn't go to a press conference that day. First of all, announce we have workers on the bridge that are still missing. And actually, even today, we still have, I think, one or two still missing. But, our condolences to the family. We're going to do a thorough investigation to determine whether this was an accident or some other, nefarious, deliberate attack. Could be terrorism, could be criminal, could be insurance fraud, could be any number of things. We're going to get to the bottom of this and try to determine. In the meantime, we're going to have all of our systems, whether it's the Army Corps of Engineers or whoever it might be, to get the channels open, because we have shipping blocked from coming into the port of Baltimore and leaving. And that's a critical port in the U.S. system. So we're going to be doing, to open the channel nearest that bridge, move the bridge debris out so that they can dredge the bottom and get the channel open and start shipping going in and out while the rest of the investigation goes on. So these are all, so to me, the way it was handled by the administration, like many of the things they handle, was, to me, botched. How they went about this, what they said, why they say it. To me, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. It's typical Biden.
Correct. Very accurate. So I have a question regarding the investigation start by FBI. So how many different kind of type of the investigation that FBI will initiate, like a criminal investigation, like terrorist attack investigation, and what else?
Well, criminal, they've announced that it's a criminal investigation.
Mm-hmm.
So far, they don't have indications of terrorism. They
Okay.
say. Now, maybe they do, and we don't know, and they want to keep the hype down, let's say.
Right.
But as a practical matter, the agents that are working this investigation and the type of work that they're doing, it doesn't matter what you call it.
Okay,
So
sure.
they would be doing the same investigation, the same background.
Sure,
First of
sure.
all, they have to do an investigation on that ship. Is the
Okay.
ship notorious for power going on and off, or the rudder jamming and not being able to steer it? They would also simultaneously have a complete investigation of everybody that was on that ship that day, in particular, the crew. Where are they from? What countries are they from? This is, usually these maritime crews come from all over the world. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be leads that would go to the various FBI offices around the world
Right.
to go to their counterparts and liaison contacts and
Mm-hmm.
conduct background investigation on each person.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have all the people that worked on that ship while it was in the harbor, all the
Mm-hmm.
people that loaded the ship,
Right.
backgrounds on that group. And you
Uh,
would have the people that actually service the ship and work on the systems of the ship, the electronics,
sure.
water, other issues. That would require investigation. So you would have simultaneously
Okay.
thousands of leads being covered to try
Mm-hmm.
to get to the bottom of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So then separately, of course, you have, what Laura Logan has announced as far as her contacts that are in the intel community now. She says that, and by the way, she's known to be an honest journalist, a thorough journalist
Right.
with integrity and skill. And
Mm-hmm.
so she's not known to be some blowhard that makes up, crazy accusations or conspiracy theories or all of that. So when she came up with that information the very day of the crash, to
Mm-hmm.
me, that's very serious and very important that that's happening. So
Right.
that means that possibly you would have the FBI agents working with the intel community,
Mm-hmm.
possibly the very people that provided her the information, but they would be, again, looking at the background of this, and they would have to know the system. Cyber attack, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Are they able to control remotely the operation of that ship, turn the power on, turn the power off, those kind of things? Is it operated? Is it connected to the internet in the
Right.
first? So there's many aspects of this alleged cyber attack to
Mm-hmm.
show that it was a cyber attack, that could be done. Um, and then just the motivation of somebody, when I was in the FBI, we had programs internally, which your job in every field division was to identify critical infrastructure of the country to
Mm-hmm.
determine what was going to be vulnerable
Right.
or could be, get attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And that infrastructure would include, within your territory, the power grid. So you would work closely with the electric company controlling the production of electricity, production of electricity if it was a nuclear plant, production of pumping water, for example. So the water systems within that territory, that would all be part of critical infrastructure. Then, does your territory have a large international airport? That's part of the infrastructure. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have other systems, national communication networks? Is that where, the various major phone networks, do they have a hub in your territory? Is that vulnerable to attack? So you have all of these factors identified as critical infrastructure. And your job as an executive in that territory, in that division, was to identify every component that you would identify as critical infrastructure, the relationship that you have with the people that run that system, so that you have liaison with them on a regular basis, keeping track of, is everything running the way it should be, and what are you doing to safeguard the systems, make sure that that's all staying safe in your territory. That would be your responsibility if you're the special agent in charge of that territory.
Mm-hmm. Sure, sure. So sounds like we will have a fully investigation from FBI, which we really hope that they will go every detail to check out what happened. And this kind of different than what Biden announced just about 5 hours after the accident, said this is nothing involved attack, or this is just an accident. So one, Biden already say that, and the FBI afterwards to go ahead and get the fully criminal investigation. So how can that work?
Well, from Biden's standpoint, the most important aspect of the event is how does it affect the election in November? Mm-hmm. Because you have, for instance, the director of the FBI saying, with everybody that's crossed the border, we might be attacked. We're vulnerable. Mm-hmm. You have other people saying that our systems are vulnerable, could be attacked, could hurt the economy, all of that. So it's in Biden's had all these accusations that his open border mm-hmm. and his immigration, refugee, and asylum practices, flying in people now directly from other countries into the United States, that all of his policies together are endangering the United States. And the attack could take attacks could take many forms. Could we have another 9/11 using aircraft crashing into buildings or sensitive structures? Or could we have a cyber attack that shuts down the nation's internet or phone service or other systems that would be just critical to the operation of the country, or attack shutting down one component or another, like the Baltimore Harbor, right. That's a key area. So all of that, it's in Biden's absolute best interest to not necessarily be honest, but to tell the people nothing to see here. There's no problem. There's no terrorism. Mm-hmm. My country, I've got this country secured. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody's been saying, professionals in and out of the government have been saying, no, you don't. Mm-hmm. We're extremely vulnerable, which we are, still are. Right. So yeah, can Biden be trusted? No. Now, will the FBI still conduct as thorough of an investigation to get to the truth, no matter where that is? My FBI would. Today's FBI, I hope would. I hope. But I'm not sure positively, but I hope it would.
Sure. So it really hard to say how long the investigation will take. It might be weeks, months, even
normally, as I mentioned, getting the background information of every employee that worked on the ship, mm-hmm. with the ship, in the mm-hmm. harbor, mm-hmm. Especially for all the ones that are overseas, that could take months. Mm-hmm. So when the FBI sends a request to the government of Malaysia or something and says, we need to know, background on this individual mm-hmm. that was an employee working on that ship or working in the harbor, then how long is it going to take them to conduct the background, to get all the records together, to supply it to the FBI office in Kuala Lumpur, let's say, and then that office transmits it back to FBI headquarters, and then to the agents working in Baltimore, and to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and to the national security officials. All of that automatically takes weeks and months.
Mm-mm. Sure. Sure. Okay, so let's hope they will do their job like your FBI.
Now, don't forget that what's at stake here is that the workers that died that were on the bridge, they're doing a criminal investigation to determine if that's criminal manslaughter. So could the captain of the boat or other individuals that caused this sabotage or whatever happened to the boat, they could be charged with the deaths of those individuals. So sure. That's part of the seriousness of the criminal investigation, is that you had people killed because of the event.
Okay. So talk about transportation. So Baltimore accident is a transportation issue. And also we have some other transportation issues, like people block Golden Gate Bridge for 5-6 hours. And also the meantime, they block the Chicago International Airport for hours. And people just walk out from their cars and just walk to the airport. So is this criminal action if you block the important infrastructure, like
Yeah, it
FBI.
can be because you're interfering with interstate commerce. You're interfering with the operations, in that airport or on those highways. But the problem with that is like the problem with all law enforcement right now. Is it so political that the police are being held back or the government's holding back to not get them arrested, get them off the street, get them out of the way to keep traffic running, to keep the government, operating, to keep railroads, and railroad cars, ships, whatever it might be, aircraft operating like they should. And so that's another good question. So it's another area where the administration is walking the tightrope. Now, many of these big airports or big bridges like Golden Gate are in Democratic cities.
Right.
So if you're blocking Golden Gate Bridge access or access to Chicago's O'Hare Airport, that's Chicago. You have New York. You have the bridges in New York, Brooklyn Bridge, or some of the other roadways, let's say, leading in and out of Manhattan. All of those things, the response to it of what the police do, what the government does, there's going to be just as much political decision making as the actual efficiency of getting the roads open or getting the airports open to make sure everything keeps running. What's the priority if you're Joe Biden? Whether people are a few hours late catching their flight or have to make a different flight or what. You don't want to be seen abusing the people that are do all of this. There's all these political considerations that are overriding what should be practical, keeping the government running, keeping our commerce running, keeping our highways and bridges and ships and all of our systems operating like they should.
Well, I just don't understand the logic here because when people will block on the bridge or they block on the way they're going to airport, they can blame the government, the city government, and the government belongs to Democrats. So people are going to blame Democrats. So how they do allow these things happen, which will eventually harm themselves, people will blame Democrats, right? This is under your control.
You would think.
Yeah,
You would
but some
think.
people don't.
Well, we don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the political fallout is of the decision making that the Biden administration is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the administration, the cabinet officials that Joe Biden has picked, how competent are they? How competent is Secretary of Transportation Buttigieg?
Yeah.
How much confidence do people have in him? Let's go back to the train derailment in Pennsylvania months ago. Let's go back to when the shipping was backed up off of Long Beach for hundreds of miles.
I
The ships
remember.
could not come in and unload.
Right.
And I think that might have been at the time he was on maternity leave.
Yeah.
He and his husband had adopted a baby or something. So critical time in the country. Take the responsibility, swear the oath. I'm going to, do my job. And then, oh, wait, I've got a baby. I've got this. I've got that. So that hasn't done him any good reputation wise. So I think that if you look at how the administration operates, I don't think they don't worry about that. And I think they don't worry that this is going to affect them 5 months from now in November, because the American public, especially the ones that support the Bidens, they have to have a short memory or they wouldn't remember all the bad things he's done as president. So they're counting on the fact that they're pretty much ignorant and will ignore all of this stuff, or that they have such a deep-seated Trump derangement syndrome that it doesn't matter what Biden does, they won't vote for Trump anyway. So
This
we'll
is
see.
yeah, this is to me very similar to what happened in China in Cultural Revolution time, which is 1966 to 1976. So
Yeah.
these things happen in China. People don't care that the train is late, the boat transportation is not good. All they support is the revolution, the young people going to the revolution. We call this 红卫兵小将, Red Guard soldiers. They're young people. They're just protest everywhere, just like today's
right. Carrying Mao's little red book.
yeah, right. Yeah, so it's exactly what happened 50 years ago in China. And yeah, we'll see what on November how people will tell them by their votes. And then talk about the election. We have to discuss with you about the Trump case in New York yesterday. I think you watched something about.
Yeah, there in that particular case, you have many legal experts saying
Mhm,
that the case is invalid anyway. The
mhm,
district attorney Alvin Bragg in Manhattan took local misdemeanor charges which had expired and
mhm,
had already been looked at previously by a number of agencies and said, no, Trump didn't do anything wrong.
mhm,
Meantime, what he's done is he's added, tried to add, whether it's election interference or something, to make minor charges felonies.
mhm,
And now, and then they have a judge running this thing who hates Trump and is very obvious, just like the other judge, Enduran, that you
mhm,
have all of this animosity towards Trump. And of course, you're going to have that with the New York juries, just like you would have the DC jury would be that way. So you have legal experts saying it's a terrible case. It's probably not even constitutional, but the hope is that they can convict Trump and put him in jail or something like that, knowing that he'll later on win the appeals. But
mhm.
if that's after the election, now they don't care. Now, I've said this before that I think the Democrats have stupidly
Right.
defeated themselves because they waited 3 years to bring all these charges. They
Mhm,
could have gotten this, but they wanted this to have maximum impact on the election, maximum interference with the
mhm,
election in November. So they delayed. But then the legal theories that they've come up with to support the charges in some cases have never been done before. So
mhm,
you have this current case against Trump,
mhm,
never been tried that way before. Never take these other charges and try to incorporate it and pile it on and, bake the cake to be different than what it would have normally been. And Alvin Bragg, just like these other prosecutors, it's insisting get Trump, doesn't matter, legal or not legal or whatever, go after Trump. Now, what they do is repeatedly hurt themselves. First of all, the whole indictment
mhm,
hurts them because Trump became more popular. Now,
mhm,
right now, the latest controversy, Trump puts in a motion that his son Barron graduates from high school in May, and the judge has issued a statement to Trump: you will not miss a single day
right.
or I'll hold you in contempt and put you in jail. So
Mhm,
Trump puts in a request. My son is going to graduate on some particular day. And basically, the judge, right now, he's saying, I'll think about it. Well, I think that Democrats all over the country will be telling him, think about it. Let Trump go to the graduation because that'll blow up in our face again that we are so mean,
right.
so cruel
Mhm,
against and so biased against Trump that
yeah.
we're going to disrupt his family. Now,
Mhm,
of course, if you're a communist, you don't care about family. That's one of the beliefs of Marxists everywhere. So that part of it is absolutely important, and it's important to Alvin Bragg to back that up. Make sure that we do whatever we can as good little Marxists to do this to Trump, to do this to his family, disrupt his family. But again, it's yet another stupid thing. So if people forget how the laws have been used so hard against Trump in the last 6 months, that'll be a good reminder. Don't
mhm.
let him go to Barron's graduation.
Yeah,
So, you know,
exactly.
that again will re-emphasize how stupid they are and
Mhm,
how vicious and how mean and how evil. That'll
right,
all backfire on them. So we'll
right.
see.
Yeah. So yeah, talking about the issue of the judge said probably you cannot go to Barron's graduation celebration, and the people just so
No,
angry.
yeah,
I just saw everyone is angry on X. And some people even said, why Congress do nothing? This is outrageous. This is way
No,
too.
Congress is not going to interfere with judicial process, and they really can't in that sense. Now, you could say, what about the Supreme Court? But the Supreme Court doesn't want to start establishing that every little stupid thing one of the judges does, in the thousands of judges, every
Mhm.
little thing they do, they don't want to interfere right at the time. Because our
Mhm.
system is basically built that a judge makes the decision, the jury makes the decision, the defendant can appeal it later. It's
Mhm.
all built on that. So,
Right.
so what these judges are counting on is that they could get Trump convicted now,
Mhm.
ahead of the election, and have the whole country turn on him. He's a convicted felon. He can't run for office. He can't do this. He can't do that.
Mhm.
And again, that's all going to backfire
Mhm.
because all of these major decisions will come down after the election, except for the decision on Barron Trump. And that's
Mhm.
classic because there's a date in mind when he's going to graduate.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
so that date, and Trump has at this point respectfully asked the judge if he can have that day off to go to the graduation. Now, the
Mhm.
judge, instead of saying no outright, which will be outrage, well, I'll think about it. We'll
Mhm.
see.
Mhm.
We'll see how that goes.
Sure.
So,
So it looks like the Trump has no choice but appeal. It seems like they will get him. So, so
yeah,
it. So how many?
that's how our system is made up.
Right.
That and the other, what is supposed to happen in our system is prosecutors and judges should be able to recognize immediately how appealable an issue is. In other words, he's going to appeal and he's going to win on the appeal. This is ridiculous. Let's not pursue a policy that we know is going to be thrown out on appeal. But
Mhm.
they don't care. They just want to harass him
Mhm.
any way possible,
Right.
interfere with him. And they've done that with all of the people along the way that supported him, that
Mhm.
they've gone after.
Mhm.
So, you still have that.
So what's the time frame looks like? The timeline looks like. So this case maybe take 2 months, and then after that, Trump can go appeal, which we're talking about in July. So
The appeal, it depends. It depends if the Supreme Court wants to look at this as an urgent issue because it'll affect the election interference and all that, they
right.
can, under normal court appeals, they could take months and years.
Mhm.
So, but in this case, again, because of how much interference it does,
Mhm.
with Trump. In the meantime, you have the other case on the Mar-a-Lago case
All right.
that that's another one. It's kind of sitting right now while
Mhm.
all these other issues are being decided. And
Mhm.
again, the Democrats were stupid in wanting lesser important cases like the Bragg
Mhm.
prosecution in New York. Let's do that first. Why? Why? When they're trying to make the bigger issue, the Mar-a-Lago, the documents, all of the documents that Trump had, which illegally can possess. So
Mhm.
that's so they really every case that they've brought, legal scholars, a lot of them I have a lot of respect for. Jonathan Turley from the University of George Washington University here in Washington, or Alan Dershowitz, professor emeritus from Harvard, other former deputy attorney generals, deputy prosecutors. They have all come out and said, here's the flaw in these cases. They
So,
should not have been brought. You
right.
hear Mark Levin on Fox News every Saturday and Sunday night, plus his radio show. These
Mhm.
cases are unlawful, unconstitutional, should not have been brought. They just want to hassle Donald Trump. And and more the public is starting to really see, you know what, that's true, and it's pretty serious.
Right. And then I just curious that even after Trump become a president, will this still go after him, or they will automatically stop to
Well, I
try?
think once he's president, too late.
Okay, so they will
It's
stop.
kind of going to be too late at this point, especially on such minor charges and
Mhm.
stupid things. So I think that for them, this is kind of do or die. They've got to get him right now, right before the election. And as I've said many times, the stupidity on their part was they should have started this years ago, knowing how many motions would be made, knowing that they were writing new law, they were creating new policy that had never been done before, never, especially against an ex-president. So this case with Alvin Bragg is completely made up. It's not even an established judicial opinion. Now they're talking, you've got the jury. They're saying that alone could take a couple of weeks to pick the jury.
Right,
So
right.
you have all of these reasons why these cases are going way longer than the Democrats expected. So to me, it just makes them, it shows how stupid they really are and how vicious. That they wanted these prosecutions to disrupt the November election, but they were too dumb to realize that there were so many complex issues that they were raising. They should have been raised years ago and settled. They could have all of the hearings, the judges, the Supreme Court, the different motions, some of which take a couple of years. They could have had that all resolved.
Also,
And they didn't.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So these are not real cases because so many people said this is a lawfulness. So this is a tour. They want to stop Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how they play this game and use these toys. Maybe it's just like you said, backfire themselves. And also for the professional, legal professional like judges, like prosecutors, they probably have to sacrifice their careers to do that because this is wrongdoing.
Well, for
So
many of those judges, they have lifetime appointments. So federal judge is appointed for life. And unless you catch him stealing or selling drugs or something, you can't take them out of office. It's not like they're not going to get elected in 2 years or 4 years. They're lifetime appointments.
if even if they doing some obviously wrong judgment.
If they could do a crime or something, but if it's a matter of, well, they shouldn't have done this or they should have done that, that if it's not a major legal issue, it's probably going to fall within judicial discretion and they'll get away with it.
So like the judge doing right now in New York, is that a legal issue or is this within his authority? This is law.
Yeah, if a defendant asks for a day out of court, it's his authority. He can say no, no, you will be in court. So everybody will look at that as abuse of authority,
Right,
abuse of judicial discretion,
right.
but it's not illegal enough to take him out of office, to impeach that judge.
Okay.
Now, by the way, during the height of the drug wars back in the 70s and 80s, you had many federal judges out of Florida that were convicted of helping. They would find defendants not guilty, and then it would come up later that they were paid money from the drug cartels or the drug organizations to do that. So they were impeached. So you had them removed, but that's for specific crimes. But in this case, if you just have a judge, you know, it has to be a specific crime. It can't just be, that judge is so mean and he's so biased. He's so, Trump derangement syndrome that he didn't let Trump go to Barron's graduation. So I think that in a way, not that it's right for Barron or Melania or the president, but in a way, if it actually comes down to that, and this judge, the other judges and other Democrats have got to be telling this judge, let him go. Let him go to Barron. What are you, stupid? Let him go. Because the embarrassment and the fallout will be way worse. But these guys are so committed to hurting Trump. No, we got to be mean to Trump no matter what. And other judges are looking at this going, you got to stop. You got to stop. Enough with all this.
If they still have their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we'll see. We'll see. And then talking about the speaker, Johnson, he actually talked with Trump 2 days ago, right? And they have an announcement about the election and integrity. And also, I think he signed the bill that will start to impeach the Mayorkas.
Yeah.
Do you think it will go through, or it is just a show, or they really wanted to do something?
both. And I think that the show part of it is obviously this major embarrassment to Mayorkas. Now, the problem with this whole thing is that you're going to shut the Senate down for a couple of weeks while they present the evidence of all the job that Mayorkas did not do, all of the abuse of his authority, of he swore allegiance to the Constitution and then ignored it for 3 years. All of these things, at the end of the day, the Democrats are like a herd of rats. When this trial is over, Mayorkas will be found not guilty. You need, in an impeachment, the Senate needs 67 senators to say guilty. Well, right off the bat, you're not going to get you'll get every Democrat not guilty, and you'll get enough, probably Republicans not guilty, that he's not going to be found guilty. You're not going to have 67 to convict him. And then even if you do, take him out of office, 4 months before the election. So this is, again, now this is the time when the Republicans have been stupid. They should have tried this a lot sooner. Now, in a way, they didn't have enough, people in the House. They didn't have the majority. You had Nancy Pelosi. So in one sense, they couldn't have done this sooner. But now that it's gotten to be so late, it's kind of a waste. And then Biden himself, he just, everybody says Biden has insurance. It's the vice president. Nobody, she's more disliked and distrusted and disrespected than he is. So they don't want her to be president. And then even Republicans and others are saying, if something happens, if Biden had a heart attack and she becomes president, not that he steps down, but if she becomes president between now and the end of the year, she's going to be an incumbent. And so in November, she would be running as an incumbent Black female president. Be very, very hard to beat her at that point. So the one thing that's holding her back is Biden. So it's not like she can replace him if he doesn't step down or if he doesn't die in office. She's not going to be president. If she's not president, they're talking now that come summer during the political conventions, keeping her as vice president. They don't want to fire her, but she may be vice president even longer. So we'll see with that. But, Biden, the situation with him as president is just so bad, so horrific for the country.
Right. So if Biden stepped down right now, say next month, can they have another person replace him as a candidate of Democrats for the election?
No, if he steps down, he becomes Kamala Harris becomes president
automatically. Oh, I see.
They would have to pick someone else to be vice president.
Oh, okay. Which we're talking about Newsom from California.
Newsom or Michelle Obama or Hillary Clinton or all of the cockroaches will come out of the woodwork if that happens.
Right. And then this is about Biden. How about the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security? I think Johnson signed the impeachment document about him.
Yeah, but again, they've run out of time, because even if they have the trial this summer, and even by some unbelievable circumstance, Mayorkas gets convicted. Now imagine the president has to nominate a new Secretary of Homeland Security. That takes months, goes through background investigation. Then it goes to Judiciary Committee in the Senate, and they'll hold hearings, and that'll take weeks. And then it would go later to the whole Senate to vote. At that point, what's the point? It's so far into this that I think they're just trying to make a point to get all this evidence out of the wrongdoing involving the border and the disruption of the way the border's been.
Right. And then the last question, Tom, I just want to hear your opinion about Trump. Is him support Johnson? They met at Mar-a-Lago, I think, last Friday, Friday. and then they have announcement. And do you think the action shows that Trump fully support Johnson, or he's trying to unite the republic?
I think trying to unite. I don't think that. I think the problem with Johnson is that he's not a complete rhino, but he's showing signs of going along with, some of the stuff like the FISA law, Foreign,
right,
Surveillance Act,
mm-hmm.
and supporting that instead of saying, "Wait a minute, the FBI needs to get a warrant."
Right.
The problem I have with FISA is that it's been, in effect since right after 9/11. And the problem with it is that it gives the FBI tremendous power to conduct wiretaps. It's supposed to be designed for foreign wiretaps on foreigners. Mm-hmm. But if the FBI wants to say this American works with foreigners, whether it's a drug cartel or whether it's, spy service from another country, Ministry of State Security from China, or, one of the Russian, under that circumstance, they can wiretap an American. Mm-hmm. And the FBI has severely abused this law. They've been called on it many, many times, hundreds and hundreds of cases where they abused it. Even in the case of Carter Page, who was a Trump advisor, part of the campaign 2016. And so the idea of taking that authority away from the FBI, all it says is, if you've got reason to believe somebody's bad, get a warrant, like in a criminal case. Right. Now, I oversaw criminal wiretaps, hundreds and hundreds, and we had to get a warrant. Now, the only exception to that was that I could authorize a wiretap in an emergency. So if we had a kidnapping case and the bad guys went into the house and we wanted to sneak a microphone in and life and death situation, I could authorize the wiretap and then within 48 hours submit the written affidavit to the judge, get the authority after the fact. It had to be life and death emergency. Mm-hmm. But under the National Security Act with FISA, doesn't have to be life and death. It just has to be, they've got information. And in the case, one of the most serious abuses of the FBI was when they wanted to wiretap Carter Page. Now, normally, when you have other agencies that might be doing what you're trying to do, we have mechanisms for deconfliction. Make sure they are or they aren't, who you think. So in the FBI's case, they sent a message to CIA headquarters. It said, is Carter Page working for you? Because he's meeting all these bad guys. If he's doing it because he's an informant of CIA or an asset of the CIA, well, that's okay. Then the CIA tells the FBI, which they did, they sent a message saying, yes, he's doing what he's doing for us. That's the end of it. Then the FBI doesn't try to get a wiretap. The CIA is what this guy's doing is on behalf of the CIA. But the CIA, when the message comes to FBI headquarters, one of the low-level attorneys, a guy named Kleinsmith at FBI headquarters, falsifies the documents. They submit that to the FISA court because the FISA court would want to know, well, did you check with the CIA? Is he working for them? No, he's not. He's a bad guy. We want to, and they authorized the FISA wiretap, later extended it for another couple months. And so that was absolute abuse. And that's a criminal offense for the FBI to do that. So Kleinsmith, he gets kicked out of the FBI. He loses his law. He has all this so-called punishment. Within a few months, it all goes back. He gets back his law license. He doesn't go to jail. They, slap on the wrist, all of that. And, and that was a terrible example of FBI abuse of FISA, and nothing seriously happened to the FBI. Now, go back to when Comey gets fired by Trump. Christopher Wray becomes director of the FBI. He promises, this won't happen on my watch. I'm going to hold the people accountable, and I'm going to, clean it up, and we're not going to have this. And then since his time as being director, it's only gotten worse. And the FISA court sends messages out saying, this is terrible, fix this, and they don't. And so to me, most of my colleagues, former FBI and current FBI, have said that, oh, no, the Congress has to, they need this lack of warrant authority because it could say, terrorism and this and that and everything. I said, I don't care. They abused it so severely, they don't deserve to have the trust to have the ability to conduct a warrantless wiretap like that. And how long does it take to write up an affidavit and get it to a judge if it's an emergency? Not long enough to me to make it not worth it.
Right. So the interesting thing is people against the law, most are Democrats. And people support this law as from Republican, right?
Yeah, because what happens is that Christopher Wray testifies last week. And what they do, it's really an old trick. He tells Congress, if you don't authorize the extension of the 702 provision of FISA, we know a terrorist act is going to happen. Not might, it's going to happen, and the blood will be on your hands. You will be responsible because you didn't let the FBI keep the authority that it used to have to prevent terrorism. Your fault. And so these congressmen are all sitting there going, okay, I don't want it to be my fault. And that's how it's politics.
Sure. And
now I don't, and I would say, fine, authorize it. But when you have somebody abuse it, like the attorney Kleinsmith in 2016, he should go to jail.
Sure.
That's how you clean up this abuse. People that authorize it, all the way up to the director of the FBI, lock him up.
Right.
They know if you don't stop this from happening, you're going to prison.
Right. Do they have the supplement?
Oh, they could do it. They just don't want to.
Sure. So we still can have some adjustment for the bill, even after it's passed. So it's okay. We can do something like
yeah. If they lie, cheat, or steal to get the wiretap, like they did with Carter Page.
Right.
The FBI had this authority, but they abused it, and the abuse of it was a criminal act.
So the problem is not the bill itself, is FBI.
Yeah. FBI and the lack of the FBI holding people accountable that abuse or break the law.
Right. And then one last question is, some people said that right now Johnson focus on try to remain the majority of the Congress because we only have 2 more seats. So keep the majority and then help Trump to get back to White House is his first priority. He should do anything, or he is willing to do anything to make that happen. Do you think so?
I don't know. I saw the press conference that they held at Mar-a-Lago, and you see this all the time. They come out holding hands and, oh, we love each other and support each other. Behind the scenes, I don't know. Behind the scenes, we're never positively for sure of what they're really doing or what they really think. And it could be that Trump is just looking at that trying to take him out now would be such a huge disruption, like it was when they took out McCarthy how many months ago. So that could go into the thinking. We don't know.
So if Republic lost the majority and the Democrat become the majority in the Congress, what's going to happen? What's the worst going to happen?
Oh, the worst is all of these investigations going on right now against the Bidens. You have the committees in the House are determined. The leader of the committee, the chairman, is picked by the Speaker of the House.
Oh, okay.
So if the Democrats take over, the Democrats become Speaker of the House. Then the Speaker of the House determines who runs every committee. So they appoint Democrats. So Comer and Jim Jordan and all these guys will be out.
Right.
Secondly, the ones that they put in, theoretically, they're saying Joaquin Jeffries would become the new speaker, and he'll pick the new chairman. The speaker can determine what hearings they can hold, what subpoenas they can issue, what policies what laws they can recommend, all of that. That's why under Pelosi, no hearings. Nothing against Biden under Pelosi. And that's what it would go back. It would go back to being like Pelosi was in charge again. All the committees, all of the, right now you have Comer, for instance, has developed enough evidence of Biden corruption, the wire transfers into the corporations that Biden controls to his children, to his grandchildren, and all of that. So that all, in order to prosecute, Comer has enough information now they could prosecute Biden when he's not in office anymore. But you're going to need Merrick Garland to be gone. You're going to need the director of the FBI gone. You're going to need honest people in those positions that will take the evidence and prosecute based on that evidence. And, that's what's at stake here. Everything. Don't forget the House, all of this information, all of this evidence that they've gathered has been within the last 2 years. Just think if they had been doing this for 4 years or 6 or 8.
Right.
But they haven't. And it could easily just be stopped right now. New administration could stop it.
Can the Democrats majority Congress stop or block Trump to go back to White House? Even he say he win the election, can they block him?
I don't think so. I don't know what they would come up with to try to do that.
Okay, that's good, because
what they would do is like they did last time, immediately impeach him again.
Right.
So, and again, to impeach Trump a third time, they need a Democratic majority in the House to bring articles of impeachment. Impeachment is like indictment. It just brings formal charges.
Right.
So they draw up the articles of impeachment, and then the House delivers that to the Senate, and the Senate holds the trial. So, could happen. They could do it again.
Sure. And then some good news from an RNC is they actually hired thousands of lawyers for the election integrity. Yeah. So we hope that every, especially in the battle states, every the place has our own lawyer there. Right. So stop them to steal the ballots. So hopefully that will make some difference.
Hope so.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much. We have some people greeting to you, Tom, and thank you for your encouragement and your voice. They really need to hear someone from inside and tell them what's going on in the back. Yeah. And then we will. Some people said we probably should talk to some different opinion, the people with different opinion, and the other audience said, no, we're conservative. We only talk with the conservative people, because the other they have the other opinion for non-conservative.
I would be happy to actually go on and debate someone with another opinion.
Yeah,
have me and someone else that doesn't agree with this.
Right.
Well, that's fine with me.
Yeah, the thing is, it's fine with Trump, but Biden doesn't want to come out to debate.
Well, it won't be Biden, but he has enough, Democrats that would, I'm sure, would want to come on and. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe they like to stay in hiding until the election.
And most likely they will do that. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Tom.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And then thank you for our audience. And then I will translate into Chinese, and then I'll post the Chinese version later.
Okay.
Thanks. And I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you, Cheyenne.